Hey everybody, Josh Sigurdson of World Alternative Media here, and we are entering into a new world order. It's all by design, and we have Germany once again doubling down on the fact that they are indeed at war with Russia, a very dangerous thought in general. Germany already in conflict with Russia, says Merz. The Chancellor has suggested that Moscow could attack the EU, a notion which the Kremlin dismisses as nonsense. Nonetheless, he continues to send missiles in to Ukraine to be sent, in many cases, long range into Russia after these attempted peace talks. Macron is still saying that he wants boots on the ground in Ukraine. And of course, this is all happening as Russia and China meet once again. Putin and Xi Jinping, for the third time in about a year, are meeting for what they call what they're united in their vision. Says Putin. The Russian president has praised his strategic partnership with Beijing ahead of the SCO summit and Victory Day commemorations. Now, this is part of the thing that I really want to get into with BRICS, as they say, is a key pillar of global architecture, says Putin. And of course, China announcing visa-free travel for Russians. They're creating a new union. India is involved. All the BRICS countries are generally involved, and Trump is saying that China needs us more than we need them. In many ways, he's right, but it's by design. And the United States has been propping up China for a very long time now, and we're going to go into how that goes, how the World Economic Forum's goals and agenda play into this, and where we end up next. Before we do, I urge people to check those links in the description. Check out our link for Wave Watch 2.0. It's down below in the description of the video. If you use code WAM, W-A-M, you'll get $100 off it. It's amazing. It's like having a Rife machine on your wrist. Improves your sleep, reduces stress, fights pain, boosts energy, great for immune function. 1,100 plus frequencies on this thing. Of course, we know we're under attack by bad frequencies, what we deal with on a daily basis with cell phone towers and Wi-Fi, etc. I think this is a really cool thing to be able to have on your wrist. And with that said, I also urge people to go and subscribe to us on Rumble and BitChute at World Alternative Media and help us, reach new people. Of course, hitting that notification bell is very important as well. Let's get into this. So, Germany already in conflict with Russia, says Merz. Now, this is a major shift towards war because Merz has already said that technically, yes, they are at war with Russia. This is something that historically hasn't ended well for Germany, being at war with Russia. Now, we can argue the nuances around that, but the reality is historically it doesn't usually work out well. But again, this is part of an overall agenda, which is absolutely manufactured. We could go on all day about how corrupt Ukraine is, and you'd be 100% right. Zelensky is a puppet. He's a comedian. He's an actor. But then people will then say, oh, well, then Putin must be great. It's all part of an agenda. The U.S. has been propping up Russia, China, and all these other places for a long time to eventually replace them. They are committing suicide because it was never about a nation state. It was about a new world order. It was about globalism. It was about a shift from the West to the East into a new system of governance, which will be technocracy. Russia is one of the top countries pushing forward CBDCs and digital IDs right now, including mandates for digital IDs. So again, this was always meant to go in this direction, but they need the excuse. They need the pretext in order to move into that system. They can't just do it. They have to actually have reasoning and make it appear like there was some kind of fight put up. Now, it says Germany is already in conflict with Russia, Chancellor Friedrich Merz has said. He claims that Moscow is destabilizing Germany through cyber attacks and disinformation. Of course, it's so easy to just yell disinformation. Like anything that we'll just say disinformation. Everyone will just go, oh, they must be spreading disinformation. What is a disinformation? Well, things that they believe to be true. And then we're spreading this stuff while, arresting people for criticizing Israel and all that kind of stuff. We're arresting people for doing all these things, but we have free speech in Germany, they say. In fact, I actually have I think an article somewhere on here where we have Merz claiming that Germany has free speech. I mean, it's a joke for him to even claim that Germany has free speech because we know that isn't the case considering all the insane things that we've seen in the past while. I mean, we have an economic decline in Germany that is absolutely massive. They have hate speech raids on their own citizens, but alas, we will still have the Germans. This was German politician Olaf Scholz denouncing Elon Musk. We have freedom of speech in Europe. Everyone can say what he wants, even if he's a billionaire. What we do not accept is the supporting of extreme right positions. So this is a double, I mean, this is an oxymoron, basically. If you disagree with us, we don't support you, but we have free speech. Germany is a mess. And I mean, we have done so much to load up stories on Germany. We want to do a video just on Germany soon because I have so many insane stories out of there, but they're collapsing and it's by design. Again, it was always about the shift from the west to the east, and they have to create a narrative to make it appear natural. They're suggesting that Russia could attack the EU to reclaim former Soviet territories, which the Kremlin has dismissed as nonsense. In an interview with French broadcaster LCI on Friday, Merz said he agrees with French President Emmanuel Macron's recent description of Russian President Vladimir Putin as an ogre who always wants to eat more. I don't know if Macron is talking about Putin or his wife, but again, it's just this overt move to constantly perpetuate conflict. No one that has any diplomatic intelligence says any of this stuff, but again, it was never meant to be. And I quote, "That's how I see Putin. He destabilizes large parts of our country. He is interfering everywhere, particularly on social media," Merz said, claiming that German intelligence regularly reports Russian cyber attacks and efforts to sway public opinion without providing any evidence. And I quote, "So we are already in conflict with Russia," he said, adding that Moscow's campaign targets the entire EU with the aim of destabilizing our democracies. Commenting on Merz's remarks, Russian Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Maria Zakharova said they are a case for psychiatrists. I don't disagree with her. But again, it's all scripted, so don't believe that the Russians are innocent here. But as she says, Germany has been supplying the neo-Nazi Kiev regime with weapons, including heavy military equipment, for 3 years. And now they're worried about social networks. She told TASS on Saturday. She added that millions of people are suffering because of Western interference in Ukrainian affairs, which triggered the Maidan coup and led to Kiev's failure to implement the Minsk Accords, both precursors to the current hostilities. All true. And the Maidan massacre, clear false flag. Of course, we know back in 2014, that was the coup that the West committed on Ukraine to enforce more anti-Russian sentiment and put in people like Zelensky, who played piano on television with his penis. Yeah. And played the president on TV and danced in women's clothes. And we could go on and on. I mean, it's just, I would say you can't make this up, but it's literally all made up. It's all just one big script. As Macron calls for boots on the ground in Ukraine, the French president has repeated his call for Western peacekeepers in the country, despite Moscow's warnings. They're not peacekeepers. They are war mongers, and of course part of the globalist regime in order to create a new world order. And again, at the end of the day, these guys are all puppets, all the presidents, all the prime ministers. The whole idea is to collapse the West in favor of the East, and they will do so at any cost necessary. It's all part of a long agenda that goes way back. As Russia and China united in our vision, says Putin, the Russian president has praised the strategic partnership with Beijing ahead of SCO summit and Victory Day commemorations. President Vladimir Putin has said Russia and China are united in our vision of a just multipolar world order. Here we are right here, my friends, with the world order ahead of his official visit to China for high-level talks at the Shanghai Cooperation Organization, SCO, summit and Victory Day celebrations marking the 80th anniversary of Japan's surrender in World War II. Again, if we want to talk about how the U.S. has intervened in order to create this enemy in the first place, how they were involved, how the Rothschilds were involved, how Marxists and everything were involved in the Bolshevik Revolution in order to create the state of Israel and to create an era of communism, which then would be normalized and then bred into the new technocratic agenda that we're witnessing today. What we saw in China with their battle against Japan, Japan was winning. And of course, the United States put an end to Japan, and China had this sudden revolution, which moved into the era of Mao in 1948. Which the US was heavily involved in. And I'm going to continue on with where that direction goes right here. Actually, I had a few articles first, but I'm going to just jump into what I'm talking about here. Then we have Kissinger meeting with Mao Zedong in the early 1970s, creating an artificial alliance with China, propping them up as a monopoly on trade worldwide and saving them from starvation. Because, communism often comes with starvation and authoritarianism. They didn't stop the authoritarianism. It created this semi-quasi-weird a commune fascist state where they have fascism over here and communism over here, which goes a full circle. It's not left or right. That's a paradigm. That's nonsense. But this led to, of course, the creation of the Trilateral Commission, which I have books for back here. In fact, I have Trilaterals over Washington, volumes 1 and 2 by Patrick Wood and Anthony C. Sutton. Classic books. We've had Patrick Wood on our show many times, and of course, what that was this creation by the Rockefellers and Zbigniew Brzezinski to create this commission to prop up China as a guinea pig state for technocracy, which would eventually replace the US when, lo and behold, the dollar collapses and all these things happen. Remember, at the same time as this was happening, we had around 1969 Charles de Gaulle, the president of France, sending battleships to New York Harbor, demanding their gold to be repatriated, which the United States did not have in Fort Knox, which led to Nixon pulling the United States off the gold standard and giving France a bunch of debt to pay back for the gold, and creating the new fiat system of monetary governance that we see today. And this was a major part of that shift, because that also led to Kissinger then going and meeting with the Saudis to shake their hands to create a new alliance for the petrodollar, which expired last year. And now Trump has made recent deals with the Saudis over AI governance and militarism, which is billions and billions of dollars. And of course, it appears like they're all friendly, but it's all part of that shift. I promise you, because we have Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates, especially the UAE, because they've already basically joined BRICS. The Saudi Arabia looking to join BRICS, BRICS being the Brazil, Russia, India, China, South Africa, but now it's BRICS Plus, and that it also includes potentially Mexico in the near future, which by the looks of it and the way that we're seeing this militarism between the US and Mexico right now, and I live in Mexico, there's clearly going to be a shift towards BRICS. Obviously, we could be talking about things like Brazil, which is now starting to spread through Latin America as well, where we have many countries looking to join. Egypt has joined, for example, and France has even talked about joining. Again, this is all about the collapse of the West in favor of the East, and it was always part of the agenda. So we have that system that Kissinger meets with, Mao Zedong, and then he meets with, of course, the Saudis. And now we see that shift from the Saudis now supporting the Chinese. And we also have to understand, I mean, all fiat currencies eventually revert to their true values of zero. They always have, they always will, going back to 1024 AD in China. But what they do is they weaken people with inflation over time. They print a bunch of currency. They know it impoverishes people. With poverty, it comes crime and instability and demoralization and the collapse of a civilization. We've done documentaries on this on the ground in Rome, including our documentary, the fall of empires, which you could find on our channel. We went into this on the comparisons between, and this documentary is from 2019, the comparisons between, Diocletian's edicts and the shift towards, collapsing Rome to what we see today at the Fed. Well, all of it weakens people. And then they say, oh, well, the dollar's collapsing, but don't worry, we have a solution for you. But it's a digital currency, but it's to keep you safe. They'll say it's for national security reasons, they'll say, and they pull the rug out and boom, you already have the solution. But that solution being more control over you, more technocracy, a control of mankind based in the idea of China. So considering that, we have Klaus Schwab says communist China is a role model for many countries in creating the new world of tomorrow. He said that the Great Reset was based on the model of China. Of course it was. They pushed forward the digital currency there first. They pushed forward the social credit there first, formerly Sesame Credit. And of course, facial recognition and AI and the robotics and all these different things. There's a reason that they were a technological hub. It wasn't because they were making good economic moves. It was because they were propped up that way to replace that system. And it wasn't that China is going to be taking over and everyone will be speaking Chinese. It's more about the model of China. Again, they're a guinea pig state, as China has proposed initiative on a global civilization, which many in BRICS are very happy to join. BRICS is a key pillar of global architecture, says Putin. The global majority deserves a new, non-discriminatory financial system, the Russian president has said. Let's remember that 6.6 billion of Earth's population is within either in BRICS already or trying to join BRICS. It's already defeated the G20 countries. China announces visa-free travel for Russians. A one-year trial will start on September 15th. The foreign ministry in Beijing has said this new world order has already been created. This has been happening for a long time. Janet Yellen on mushrooms in China under the Biden administration, meeting with the Chinese officials at the central bank there, and of course, basically bowing to them. She did bow, not basically, she did bow, and basically giving them the go ahead to replace the dollar system. While Trump says we're going to stop China from all this stuff, I cannot see how that's possible. No president is going to do that. And of course, you have a $37 trillion debt. And yes, China has an economic crisis itself. But of course, when they're shifting into a new union while the US is losing their union, I guess we could say it goes without saying where this is going. India buys up Russian oil at a discount despite US tariffs. Growing US pressure and widening crude discounts from Russia have pushed New Delhi to ramp up purchases. Now, India, which has been offloading their citizenry into Canada and the United States and throughout the UK and Europe right now, are fast shifting into the BRICS system. Now, they and China do not get along, and they've been at war with each other in a weird Cold War kind of way. Same with Pakistan, which is part of the Arab League. However, they are the second most populous country in the world and one of the first to try the cashless system, where Modi tried to give every homeless person a bank account. Oh, it seems very virtuous, right? And then, of course, force them into a digital system, and then tried to confiscate gold and demonetize their currency. Now, the gold thing didn't quite work out because it's a cultural part of India, but they did test it on the people least likely to give in first, so they could take the psychological results of that test and move from there. As Trump says, China needs us more than we need them. Well, okay, China does need, because the United States has propped up China in the first place. Of course, they created this current incarnation, if you will. The world order of the past, which was headed generally by the United States and of course Israel and Britain and places like that, is giving this road, no pun intended, with the One Belt One Road initiative, which is a major part of that globalist shift, to China. And that was always the agenda. And it's never been us versus them. It's not these people fighting. That is just the veneer. It's like finding these buildings that have a brick outer casing, a veneer outside the building. You see brick. Is a building made out of brick? No, unless it's an old one. It is structurally made out of concrete and steel, but on the outside we see brick. It gives us a vision, but it's not what's truly inside. Deep down inside of these tariffs and trade deals and all this kind of stuff is chaos and order out of chaos, and the shift into the Great Reset, the new Tower of Babel, the new transhumanism, the new hive mind, the new technocracy, the CBDCs of the world, central bank digital currencies, the shift into digital IDs with food rations on social credit scores, which again, they're already implementing a lot of this stuff with digital IDs going on across the board. They're unleashing digital ID mandates for wallets in Alberta, Canada, a very conservative part of Canada, by the way. Danielle Smith is doing that. Again, left, right, doesn't matter. The shift is scripted. It's been written long ago, and they use crisis to push it forward. War, civil unrest, race wars, issues over nationality, biometrics based on migration, mass migration they created in the first place, food shortages after attacks on farmers, after fake, disease outbreaks and all that kind of stuff. We see all of this culminate into what we're seeing today, this global technocracy with the UN Pact for the Future, which 193 countries signed off on a year ago in September 2024, which includes, by the way, unless you're in like the middle of Africa, it includes your country. It involves you having your bank account shut down if you say something negative about the government or one of their policies or their ideas. I mean, in Canada, they're already sending police to people's doors over these same things. And of course, in Australia and the UK, we could go on and on about that. A comedian just got arrested at London Heathrow Airport for making jokes about trans people. I mean, it's insane. But anyway, they're doing that. It's part of the demoralization. But this UN Pact for the Future also includes them forcing you into food rations on social credit scores with digital IDs. And we've already done videos in the past. If you go back on our Rumble or BitChute about a month and a half or so, long form videos breaking down in detail how the CBDCs are being rolled out in most countries, almost 200 countries worldwide. Russia's a major part of that. Ukraine has been a big part of that. Ukraine was propped up by the US in the first place. 2014 Maidan massacre, of course, was a major part of that, but also previously in the Soviet Union. And of course, through the Soviet Union, World War I, Bolshevik Revolution, 1917, they got a lot of help from the shadow governments of the world, if you will, and the bankers. And of course, we could also talk about, for example, and this is right around the time of the Balfour Declaration, by the way, with Israel. Russia was being propped up for the Bolshevik Revolution, a part of the script. World War II also, of course. Vietnam was propped up. Ho Chi Minh was propped up by FDR in the White House as his second in charge. Were massacring French soldiers in Vietnam to shift into that war with Vietnam eventually, which they used U.S. weapons that FDR gave to them against Americans in a totally unjust, insane war that was manufactured. Gulf of Tonkin incident, anyone? And then, of course, we have China. We have, of course, Iran, 1953 military coup, a major, by the way, ally of Russia and China, and a major player in this scripted shift. Of course, we have Iraq's Ba'athist Party, 1968 and 1983. We have Al Qaeda, Mujahideen, Muslim Brotherhood, Hamas, ISIS, Al Qaeda, all these guys. They were all propped up by the West and Israel in the first place. And of course, we could just keep going. I mean, all these countries that we're seeing fighting, it was all manufactured in the first place. It's organized chaos to bring in order. And that order is a new world order. And that new world order is going to be birthed from militarism, but will be the end of what we know as militarism. And further, it'll be the bankrupting of humanity in general into a technocratic system where people are no longer individuals. They're part of a giant collective that is digital and controlled as we lower ourselves down the food chain as AI takes over. And again, a major part of the design of this complex, because again, the old world order, and I don't mean the British world order, I'm talking about the old world order that we're ending right now, because it was the 9/11 world order. It actually started around 1997, this form of it. Before that, it was another new world order. We could go on about that for hours. I've done documentaries on this. But the 9/11 world order essentially was the Patriot Act and the mass surveillance and all that, prepping us for this system. But of course, utilizing militarism as a fear tactic, which then while people pulled away from militarism, they don't support it as much anymore, though people are hypocritical on the left and right over this all the time. But generally, most people don't support it. Then they end that era with militarism, which leads to cyber attacks, which leads to all this kind of stuff, false flags, that lead us into the emergency order, new world order, the technocratic world order, where they come in under the guise of safety and security and also progress, quote unquote. They will ration you food, they'll ration you electricity, they will ration you your internet privileges, quote unquote, on a digital ID with social credit in your 15-minute city. This is clear, and this is where they're heading. And I don't see how people don't notice this right in front of their eyes. It's not just knocking at the door on your porch. It's kicked your door down already, and it's already taken over your home. How many digital things do you have in your home, and how many things are you dependent on that you shouldn't be? Grocery stores, banks, cell phone, whatever it might be. It's already happening. And once we understand that better, then we can fix the problem by withdrawing from the system of control, by withdrawing from it. The war is scripted. The war isn't about Ukraine or Russia or China or Taiwan or Pakistan or India or the United States and Mexico or Israel and Palestine and Iran. This is all part of the agenda. Yes, millions of people die in it. That's real. But the story surrounding it is just the pretext, as they say in Espanol, un pretexto para guerra, for war. We are shifting into that world order. And the only thing we could do about it is not obviously depending on politicians to fix it. It is withdrawing ourselves from the very system that we're dependent on, because yes, everyone watching right now, and myself included, are in some way dependent on that system. We don't need to be. We don't need to be. We have our options. For me, the most important is obviously food, water, shelter, self-defense. So you're not gathering things for the toughest guy in the block, gold, silver, and in my opinion, privacy coins, stuff like that, Epic Cash, Monero, things like that. There's multiple different angles on that. But I urge people to check out heavensharvest.com for long-term storable foods that are non-GMO. There's organic kits, heirloom seeds, water filtration and storage, and books on how to get started. Use code WAM, W-A-M, and you'll get 5% off as well as free shipping on your order. in the United States, of course. Unfortunately, there's stupid rules for shipping in most countries in the world that stop people from being able to get this. But I highly recommend people stock up on this while they still can, because time is running out. And people say, well, you've been seeing them. At any moment, we could see this major overnight shift. And if you aren't prepared, then you will be left behind, unfortunately. And of course, you know, getting out of the banking system is a major part of that. Avoiding the CBDCs. I urge people to check out the link in the description for firstnationalbullion.com/schedule-consult/. It has to be that exact link. Yes, it has to be with all the slashes, all the dashes. It has to be that exact link. So find it in the description on Rumble and BitChute. But there you could buy physical gold and silver. You could hold it in your hands, put it in a vault, or put it in an IRA outside of the traditional IRA system, and schedule an appointment for a free consultation with Mark Gonzalez and a complimentary investors package. Mark does a lot of videos with us, and I urge you to check out our recent ones on the housing market and the Wall Street panic that we're currently dealing with. It's all happening. And let him know in the comments of the forum that he found him at World Alternative Media, or WAM, WAM. This is an opportunity. I hope everyone takes it seriously. You know, health is important. I urge people to once again check out the Wave Watch link in the description for Wave Watch 2.0. Use code WAM, WAM, and save $100 on this. I think it's super cool. 1,100 plus frequencies. And of course, we have things like vni.life/WAM, WAM. It's in the description of the video. I highly recommend people check this out. It's super cool because, of course, they have Protovite, which I'm super excited about. It's 100 plus vitamins, minerals, and phytonutrients. And just look at the before and after of the pollution of the blood, the problem about you know, blood cell movement and circulation. Look at it 5 minutes after people take Protovite. This usually takes a month or two to do. Restored negative charge, red blood cells freely flowing, and of course, 4 times the size of white blood cells. I highly recommend people go and check that out. If you use code WAM15, WAM15, you will get 15% off on your order. So go and check that out at vni.life/WAM, WAM. And as I close this off, you know, we try to give as many solutions as possible. I want to also thank everyone who helps support us, because we need you as a solution more than ever, because of course we've constantly faced bankruptcy for daring to not play one side or the other, but instead be upfront and honest and not do the mainstream alternative media narrative, not do the mainstream narrative. We turned down a $1 million contract with a major network because I don't want to lie for a living. I want to sleep at night. And I was born to bring the truth to the population of Earth here. So I want to continue being able to do that. So you guys help support us. I thank you to those who've donated in recent days in our recent campaign. GoGetFunding.com. We have Patreon and Subscribestar as well, where if you pledge $4.99 a month or more, you'll get exclusive content, including early access. And if you send us questions, we can do personalized video messages for you. And we'll have a lot more coming up on that, including exclusive reports that you cannot find on other platforms. So I hope people go and subscribe to us on there. And thank you to those who have already. You guys are heroes. And of course, we have an X account at World Alt Media, where we also do that if you subscribe. Of course, you can find our PayPal address, ancientwonderstelevision@gmail.com. We have our Bitcoin address on the screen, which you could scan here if you please, and also find it in the description in text form. We have our Cointree link with a bunch of different cryptocurrencies that you could donate in if you please, including privacy coins. So we appreciate that as well. And of course, we have a Teespring store with a bunch of merchandise. So thank you to those who help support us in those ways. You could also support us by following us on different platforms. We're of course on Telegram, Band.video, BitChute, Odyssey, Rumble, and Brighteon at World Alternative Media. We're on Hive, Steemit, and Vigilante.tv at Josh Sigurdson. We're on the Bad Guys, TikTok, and Instagram, World Alternative Media, Twitter and Getter at World Alt Media, and all the major podcast platforms, except for Spotify, where of course we're banned. Hit that like button, share on social media, hit the notification bell, and hit subscribe if you have not yet already, my friends. And of course, as always, what it's all about, live freely, live by example. This is Josh Sigurdson signing out from World Alternative Media. Find the truth, be the change.